So TJ asks, what's the best way to reach out to potential referral sources? Call, email, drop-in brochure, presentation. And I think you probably posted this before I answered that. But I think the best way to do it is to reach out to them via email and say you want to swing by and bring a coffee and see their place and hear about them. One thing that I would suggest is to really run the numbers. Create an Excel spreadsheet where you have kind of everybody's names. You sent them an email. Then if they didn't respond, you do a follow-up phone call. Hey, I dropped you an email the other day. I would love to talk with you a little bit more about your practice and learn about it. And then really look at the numbers. And so I was working with a consulting client the other day, and we figured out that for every 10 emails that he sent, 2 people responded to that, and 1 person became a good referral. So if he wants 10 new referrals, that means he needs to have 100 emails he sends out. So it really becomes just a math game. What's the difference between PCCL and EIN? An EIN is your number in the States that is associated with your business. It's sort of like a social security number for your business. And the PCCL, I'm not 100% sure what that is. So I can't do a pros and cons. I've never seen the PCCL. I'm wondering if you're meaning PLLC, because an LLC is a limited liability company. A PLLC is a professional limited liability company. And so in Michigan, at least, and this is kind of different between the states, that's the legal structure of my business, is my LLC. And then the EIN is the number that's associated with it that I have to file with the feds for my taxes. So for example, if someone sends me a 1099 because they've paid me over, I think it's $600, they're going to need a W-9 from me to send me that 1099. And so on that W-9, a lot of acronyms here, I'm going to put my EIN and the name of the company. And so I've filed my LLC, which I think is what you're referring to. And then the number associated with it, that's like Joe Sanok, except it's the business name, Mental Wellness Counseling. Then I have an EIN that's associated with that. Nikia says, what's the best way to find people interested in subletting my office? How should I come up with an amount to charge? As a business owner, subletting your office is fine if you just want to bring in some extra income. I think where you can really make more money is to have people that you add to your practice. So a 1099 contractor or a W-2 employee, depending on your state, that's where it can scale with the person. If you sublet, it doesn't really scale that much compared to if you're getting 50% of what someone brings in. That's a great way to grow. That's how you can grow some extra income in a really solid way. So the structure I use for my 1099s is so first there's an onboarding phase where until they bring in $2,500, I get 50% of everything that comes in. $2,500 in 1 month, and that resets every month. And then when they have their first $2,500 month, then they become full clinicians. So then I take 50% of the first 1,000, so $500. Then I take 65% of the next 1,500. And then when they've had that 2,500 per month, then they get 75%. And so that makes it really easy for me to scale. Even if someone's making 10 grand, if they're just subletting, they would just get to keep most of that after they sublet. Whereas I then get to get a percentage because I'm marketing, helping them growing a practice. For the people that are really looking at going from kind of upper 5 figures into 6 figures or multi-6 figures, they almost always are adding clinicians. As well, when you're full, you don't want to be turning people away. And to have some 1099s that you can refer to is a great way to scale your practice. All right, Kelly asks, blogging, do all the words need to be my own, or can I refer to other people's articles too? Absolutely, you can totally refer to other people's articles. Google wants to have original content though, so don't use a whole ton of it. You can quote it for a couple sentences or a paragraph. Make sure you cite where it's from and say that Dr. John Gottman says this in his book, quote, da, 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 unquote. He also talks about the 4 horsemen, which in my own words is blah, 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 blah. You can use those things, and I would actually link them to either the articles or to the books. If you're going to be linking to books, which a lot of therapists do, sign up for an Amazon Associates account. Amazon Associates is a program where if you refer a certain book, so say John Gottman's 7 Principles That Make Marriage Work, you get 3 to 5% of whatever that person buys on Amazon in the next 24 hours. So if they buy a fly fishing rod for their dad and they buy some kids' clothes, you get 3 to 5% of anything that comes in. So it's a great way to have some residual income coming in as well. Alicia says, do you have more information on blogging SEO somewhere on your site? Yes, I have an article. Maybe someone can go grab this while I'm answering questions. Just go to practiceofthepractice.com and type in 5 blog templates. I have it's called an authoritative guide to blogging, and it has 5 templates for blog posts, the types of kind of templates that you can have. It's probably a 2,000 word article, has a ton of awesome content. I also have something that's called Blog Sprint, which is a 10 video training that's all about blogging. It's included in the startup package over at, I think if you go to practiceofthepractice.com/startup, or email me if that's not it. But if you just type in blogging or SEO, you'll find a lot of that on the Practice of the Practice website. Kelly asks, for new practices, do you recommend retaining an accountant or attorney from the startup? I don't think you need to have a retainer fee. That's kind of overkill. I just kind of pay by the hour. For my accountant, he does my accounting every kind of tax season. We sit down a couple times and then he just bills me for that time. I do think that probably having some sort of accountant that you bounce things off of once in a while is worth it. So doing a half-hour meeting with an accountant and attorney from the early first year, I think is really smart. It's not just really smart, it also saves you from having to undo a lot. A lot of people do their accounting through TurboTax. When I started using an accountant, he usually would save me in those first few years $300 to $500 beyond his fees that TurboTax wasn't finding. I used to love TurboTax, and then I got screwed over by them. They lost a bunch of stuff and couldn't recover it. And my situation was unique, and maybe I'm jaded because of that. But I've loved Ron Harris as my accountant. Alicia says, how did you contact radio and news to get started? What did you say? Awesome question, Alicia. So what I did is I reached out to local radio. One tactic is to find something that's going on already. So have the email ready, like producer@wtcm.com or something like that. And then if something's going around Facebook, to kind of do a psychological spin on it. When something erupts on Facebook, to be able to, it's called trend jacking, so stealing a trend kind of, and you're kind of twisting it to what you can talk about from mental health. So here in Traverse City, we have the National Cherry Festival, and 2 summers ago, there was all this trash floating after one of the air shows in the water, and this photographer took all these pictures and just did an amazing, beautiful job, but it was going all around Facebook, and people were so mad about it. And so what I did is I wrote an article called Pure Michigan, the Science and Psychology Behind Trash. And I wrote about how Disney figured out that if trash is overflowing, people are more likely to just throw trash on the ground. They won't walk more than 30 steps before they do trash. And I wrote this article, and then I sent the article to the Crystal Frost show, and I said, hey, I would love to come in and talk about this relevant kind of issue that's happening right now. Could you fit me in? Having kind of taking all the legwork out of it for them makes it way easier. And then in regards to the local newspaper, I just found the life section, dropped an email to that person, said, here's some of the blog posts I've written. I'd love to write some helpful and meaningful content for your readers. Let me know if someone ever drops out or can't write for a month. And every time I've done that, I've got a yes. Like, I've never been rejected. And that was before I had any sort of major platform like I do now. So Made to Thrive has a blogging question. How do you come up with blog ideas? How research and reference heavy should blog posts be? First and foremost, a blog post should be written in a way that it helps your ideal client get something. So if you help teenagers, you should have blog posts that are like a principal's guide to ADHD, a parent's guide to ADHD, those areas that they really care about. First and foremost, it needs to be helpful to your ideal client. Second, you want to think about what does Google want? And so if you go to Google and you start typing in ADHD, you'll see all those little things pop up of what people type after ADHD. So it might be symptoms, it might be ADHD diagnosis, ADHD medication. Those are all ideas of things that you can blog about. And then I would take that topic of what you want to work with people on and say, who does this apply to? So again, there's principals, there's parents, there's grandparents, there's kids, there's videos. You could take a TED Talk from YouTube, embed it on your website, and then talk about that. Once you start down the road of blogging and stop kind of being paralyzed by perfection, which I'm not saying Made to Thrive that you are, But those ideas really, they just keep coming. And then as you listen to your clients, you start thinking, oh, I should make a blog post about that. If they read that before they came to their first counseling, that would be incredible because they'd be so much farther ahead than other people. Marianne says, how do you advertise to bring on more clinicians to your practice? Great question, Marianne. It's a little bit more advanced than probably what this webinar is about, so I'll hit on it quickly. But I have a bunch of resources on the website, or you can also reach out to me. The biggest thing I do is I just post on Facebook. Mental wellness counseling is growing. We're looking at adding clinicians that are licensed as an LPC, MSW, psychologist, all those things. If you know someone, will you tag them down below so I can connect with them? So then I'll usually get 5 to 10 people that tag. And it'll just be their names, and I'll just reach out to them and say, hi, I saw that you were tagged on Facebook. Would you like to get coffee together to just talk about where you're at in your career? Or I may ask for a resume at that point. I want the personal referral more than just to put it on Indeed, because you're going to get like hundreds, if not thousands of responses on something like Indeed, and you're just going to spend so much time weeding through it. As well, I would say being connected to grad schools that are local to you. So to reach out and say, hey, do you have any MSWs or counselors that have graduated in the last 2 or 3 years that might be looking for work, that have had some experience, that were for you those high achievers in your classes? Speaking in those classes to students also, later on, they then kind of dream of working with you. And so that's another great way, and it's more of a long tail approach. All right, so we have Nakia says, what should I be prepared to ask an attorney or accountant my first year? So a couple of questions you want to ask is, you want to make sure you find, even before you sit down and pay them, you want to make sure that they understand what state-specific healthcare people are dealing with. And so you want an attorney that's a business attorney that understands, if you grow, kind of where you can go from a liability standpoint. So you want to talk about liability. You want to make sure that you say, okay, here's how I'm structuring things. I'm filing a PLLC. You're doing this and that. Those are all things you want to talk to your attorney. For your accountant in your first year, I think it's really making sure that you optimize your tax situation so that you can write off as much as possible. Your accountant can walk you through, okay, you're going out to lunch with people promoting your practice, save your receipts. Make sure you write all that off. Integrate with QuickBooks so that your bank account kind of spits in there. You want to make sure that you don't pay taxes on money that comes in that you don't need to. So an accountant is going to really help you know, okay, so I made $10,000 my first year. Do I have $10,000 in write-offs so that I don't have to pay any taxes on that as I build the business? So those are the first kind of questions I would say. All right, we have Alicia saying, what is your thought on an intern to help with some of this stuff? Maybe grad students in the area, maybe looking for hours to help with social media content or blogs. I think it can be good. It depends on if you're paying them. I would rather you have a virtual assistant that you just pay that $12 or $15 an hour that can sustain with you for 2 or 3 years, rather than have someone new every semester you have to train. I haven't found in private practice taking on interns to be a good way to build the practice in regards to counseling interns doing counseling. But in regards to social media content or blogs, it's a great way to have, if you got someone when they were, maybe in late undergrad that was going to be around for grad school, that would be a really great way to have them learn some really good things from you kind of early on.